If you've ever photographed children, you know they can be a tricky subject. And if you've never had the pleasure, take it from me, it's not easy. But don't worry, because in this video, I will be sharing with you some tips and tricks that I've discovered when photographing children. Hi guys, it's Liz and welcome back to my channel where I teach you everything I know about photography. I honestly take my hat off to all the photographers out there who've made a career out of photographing children because boy, it is hard. I've honestly never been interested in photographing children. However, I work as an administrator at a childcare centre, and a couple of years ago the teachers came to me suggesting that we take graduation photos of the children and put it together in like a cute little book for the parents at the end of the year. And so it happens to be that I was the only photographer there, so the job automatically got palmed off to me. And at the time, silly me was thinking, how hard could this be, right? Well, let me save you from making the same mistakes. I'll just tell you what not to do. Firstly, and I know this is going to sound a little bit mean, but don't give kids a choice. For my first photo shoot that I did with children last year, I ended up printing off some examples. I actually got this from Pinterest. That way I thought I could show the kids and let them choose what pose they wanted to kind of show their personality and make each photo unique. However, each time I showed a child, it just took them forever to choose, and I had 60 plus children to photograph and it was just taking too long. In the end, I actually found that because I know the children's personality already, because I obviously work with them, it was just easier for me to go, okay, this child will understand this direction better, or maybe a bit of a simpler pose for this one, or this child would have fun doing this one. So that's kind of what I ended up doing in the end. I just chose the pose and I was still able to make it unique because I know the child's personality. However, if you've never met this child before in your life, it can be a little bit hard unless you have some time before the shoot to kind of get to know them, have a chat to them, then you learn a little bit about them. But just don't give them a choice, just give them the directions and let the personality come from there. And secondly, of what not to do not attempt action shots when photographing children. It is tricky and the photos, they just don't come out. This one happened to be one of the favorite poses of mine, and I thought it'd be really cute having the child jump up in the air, you know, big smile on their face, showing how excited they are to graduate. I just thought the parents would absolutely love it. However, when I ended up looking at the photos, they just didn't turn out the way I thought they would. The children's hands were either lopsided or their gowns would come up in their face, and it didn't come out very well. Some of them would have a very odd expression on their face and they weren't completely smiling. It just, in the end, it didn't work. I kind of, towards the end of the shoot last year, I ended up just telling the children to stand there with their hands in the air, just show me a really big smile and how excited they were, and the photos came out much better. So don't attempt action shots with children, does not work. And the third mistake that you can do is posing children. When you pose a child, it's just not natural. In fact, posing anyone just isn't natural. And I know a lot of people may say, photographing children is hard, so if I just sit them where I want them and just tell them what I want them to do, the photo will come out nice. No, it comes out so posed. A few years ago, a lady who was doing something similar to me, she actually ended up posing her children where she got them to sit at a table, put a piece of paper in front of them and asked them to draw. A lot of them were just fake because you just have the kids sitting there like, what am I doing? This isn't me, this isn't natural. And the photos, unfortunately, I felt they didn't look very nice, very candid. It showed no personality, no emotion of the child, and it wasn't exciting. Like, if you're going to show the parents that, they're going to be like, yeah, great photo. You want something that's exciting, that shows their true personality. So yeah, don't try and pose them. Try and do something that you think is more natural, that will, what I'm saying is, of course you're going to have to pose them to some extent, but don't sit them down and tell them exactly what to do. You want to try and give them a pose where you can still show their emotion and their excitement and their happiness. Like, even if you try and make it more candid, as opposed to sit here, do this, look at me, smile, boom. No. Try and do something fun with them and try and catch them mid doing something. So whether you ask them, how excited are you to be graduating? And they're like super excited, snap. There you go, candid photo, perfect emotion, boom, you're done. So now that I've told you some things of what not to do, I'm now going to tell you some things that I found helped when photographing children. The one key thing that I found that really helped is keep the directions really simple and keep the shoot really quick. So what you want to do is you want to make sure you've set up beforehand, fiddled around with all your camera, got your lighting correct, and then bring the child in and then start photographing them. In terms of the directions, what you want to do is you want to keep the directions nice and simple. You don't want to give them too much, otherwise you see it on their face, they're trying to process everything you've just told them, or their attention span just goes and they're looking way off into space and they're not even looking at the camera and smiling. So keep things as simple as you can. For example, for some children who may struggle with directions, it may be easy to just sit them down on the chair, make them comfortable, and simply just tell them to smile. Or even better yet, try and get them to laugh, because the smile will be even more candid. What's more difficult than photographing a child is a shy child. Sometimes when they don't know you, they don't want to be anywhere near you and they just don't want to cooperate. So sometimes it's best to kind of sit with the child, get on their level, have a conversation with them, ask them what their name is, ask them how their day is going, introduce yourself and get to know them a bit better. And just, even if you can have, say for example, a parent or a teacher or even a friend, someone that they know and that they feel comfortable with, and that way you guys can all do the same thing together. So the child isn't the only one, for example, in front of the camera, being the center of attention. Sometimes they don't like that. So sometimes even having a teacher or even mum just being like, look, this is what we're doing, they can do it with them, and the photos do actually turn out better. Sometimes I found, if I've ever had a shy child, again, keeping it simple, I sometimes might get them to just sit on a chair and smile. I might tell them a funny joke to get them laughing. Sometimes when they are shy, you're just not gonna win. You may not get as natural a shot. So just keeping it simple, making sure you get a nice, decent photo. So unfortunately, getting them to sit on a chair and smile, if that's the best you can do, then I'm sure the parents are going to appreciate that, especially if they know that they have a shy child. So don't worry if this doesn't work on every single child, because they're all different. They all give you different reactions, so just go with it. Another tip is to get the child really excited. Get them happy about the photo shoot. Get them happy about, getting their photo taken and putting a gown on and feeling special in front of a camera. To do that, you really got to hype yourself up. So let them absorb your energy. So by being excited and be like, hey, how are you today? Obviously don't be in their face and don't scare the crap out of them. But if you kind of just like, hey, how's it going? Hey, have a seat, put this gown on. How cool do you feel? How excited are you to be graduating this year? Really amp up the fun. That way they'll want to cooperate, because this is fun, this is exciting, I want to do this, as opposed to, I don't know what the hell you're doing, get me out of here kind of vibe. So try and keep it fun, lighthearted, happy. Again, if the child isn't going to cooperate, don't get angry or aggressive or annoyed towards the child. Just be calm, cool, collected, and be like, that's okay. Even if you just, well, for me, I had the opportunity to maybe move on to another child and let that child who wasn't wanting to cooperate watch the other children do it and see how they, how much fun they are having. And eventually the child's like, oh, I want to actually have a go now. That looks like a lot of fun. So you can kind of win the child over that way. Otherwise, you just be like, that's okay, we'll just take 5 minutes and maybe just think of another plan of attack. Another thing that can help to try and keep the photo shoot quick and simple is by having an assistant. If you happen to have the parent on standby, get them to help. Otherwise, a photographing assistant, or in my case, I had actually used other teachers. So what I did was, while I was photographing one child, I had them dressing child number 2 and child number 3, and it was just like a big rotation. And we'd rotate, I think in an hour, we got through like 20 plus children, which was really good, really quick. And each child, they were in front of the camera for less than a minute. So another tip I want to share with you guys is camera settings. So what I found works best was having a fast shutter speed with continuous shooting. So that way, if you're telling a child a joke and you're getting them mid-laugh, you can kind of just keep pushing the button and hope that a good photo comes out in that stack of photos. Also, having a fast shutter speed really helps to kind of capture the moment. Otherwise, it might come out blurry because children move really quickly, especially if you don't want them to move and they just happen to move, it still comes out sharp. Actually, one thing that was just common sense to me was to not use a flash, because if the child is already scared of being in front of a camera and in an unusual environment with a stranger in front of them, they're not going to want this thing flashing in their eyes. So I never ended up using a flash. I actually just used the natural light either of the sun outside or of the room, which actually wasn't too bad at the time of shooting. So there you have it, a few tips and tricks that I found have worked when photographing children. Now, I understand that not all these tips and tricks that I shared with you today may work on every photo shoot that you have with the children. However, when I was photographing the children, I had over 60 to do, and I had a very short time period to do it in. So for me, these tips worked perfectly. So I hope you found today's video helpful. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next Wednesday.